Hey everyone, welcome to the Farm and Pastor's Wife. Are you shocked getting a video from me on a Wednesday? That's usually the day I don't upload a video, but this is actually kind of a re-upload. I did a video last week, or maybe earlier this week, no, last week, on canning squash. And in most of my canning videos, I always give the disclaimer that this may or may not be a recommended way of doing things and you need to do your research. However, I don't think on this video I did, and someone reached out to me and said, you know, this is not a recommended way and you might want to tell them. And they were right. I always want to give that disclaimer. Not everybody is comfortable canning or the safety reasons, and so my method is not probably a recommended. I don't think it's unrecommended, but it's definitely not recommended, and I just don't think there's any recipes and trials out there that have made it. Now on the squash, if you were going to pickle it, it would totally be completely fine to or have some kind of acidity in it. It would be totally fine to can it. However, I did it in just water. I do it for purposes of casseroles. Now, let me say, the reason it is not recommended is because of potential botulism that comes from the dirt that the squash is raised in or around and splash up on the squash. So if you remember, well, as you watch the video, you'll see that I talk about how I washed it. I washed my squash thoroughly. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times I washed it. I think only till I washed it twice, but I washed it with not soap, with water, hot water, and my hands scrubbing every ounce and inch of that squash. Then I washed it in water and vinegar, and then I rinsed it off again. So it was thoroughly washed, and that is why I feel safe canning it the way I do. I've done it for years. I feel safe, but you have to be responsible for you, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, then don't do it. But I wanted to give that disclaimer, and I try to, in all my canning videos, I say that my methods may or may not be approved, and they may not be, but it's things I've done for years. I've been canning for years. I know what I feel comfortable with and what I don't. So I did want to just come on and give that disclaimer. So now let's just re-upload that video, and you can have it and you can do with it what you wish. So, but thank you for joining us, and on to the video.
Hey darling, can I tell you what's been on my mind?
Hey everyone, welcome to the Farm and Pastor's Wife. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, listen, you are here on a canning day, and I'm hoping I can take out a little bit of the fear of canning for you guys. We're actually going to do some pressure canning, and I want to remove any fear that you may have. Let me also tell you, we are canning up squash. I may or may not have enough, I may not be able to fill up a whole canner, and so I'm going to show you what to do if you don't have, what I like to do if I don't have a full canner. So let me just show you what I'm going to do. Let me tell you what I've done so far. I have washed the jars thoroughly. I have washed the jars thoroughly. They're all back here. But I have also washed by hand under the spigot the squash really good, scrubbing with my hands, making sure any mud, because we've had a lot of rain, and any mud and dirt was washed off. I then put it in some water with some vinegar and washed it again with my hands and rinsed it off. And so they're right here, draining in a colander. And I have one ready to go, and I'm just going to cut. I need a bowl. I need a trash bowl. I'm just going to cut them. Sometimes I cut them in rings. I think this time I'm going to try cutting them in chunks. What I'm going to use this squash for is squash casseroles. And I'm just going to cut them in little chunks like that. So I'm cutting it in half, and then each half in half, and then we're just going to come down and cut chunks. So I need to grab a trash bowl real quick.
And we're just going to plop those over there. I need to go get my canner out, but I don't want to do any of that without you guys here to witness it and to see it, so I can take you guys along for each step. Some of these had gotten a little too big, and so a casserole is exactly what you want to use those for. When they get too big, they're great for casseroles. Tomorrow, or I'm hoping tomorrow, we might do some fun canning of zucchini. I'm going to show you something kind of unique you can do with zucchini. And so I'm excited. So, all right, let me get all this put over here in this bowl and get me a trash bowl out. And we will get started as soon as I get them all chopped up. Okay, so we are going to do what I call cold pack, raw pack. I mean, I only refer to it as raw pack when I'm dealing with meat, but cold pack means everything's cool. My canner's not on, it's not hot. My squash is not hot. The liquid going in it is not hot. My jars are not hot. Everything is cool and room temperature. So before we get started, I want to show you this. Y'all know my favorite lids in anywhere is 4-jar lids. I love them. And so they have this cool funnel set. It comes as a complete set. You have a wide mouth funnel. You have a regular mouth funnel. And then let's say you're doing jams or jellies and you want to strain out something. It has a strainer that sits down right in it. I love the 4 Jars company, y'all. Y'all have got to go check them out. Listen, there's a link down in my description. You can get lids, you can get anything they have, and I have a discount code. Now, somebody used my discount code the other day and said they could not get it to work. So if any of you try my discount code, will you let me know if it works? I reached out to the company and they thought they got it fixed. Can you let me know if you got it, if it worked for you guys? I think it's either 15 Leslie. It's down in the description. Whatever the code is, it's down in the description. Will you please try it and let me know if it works? So if it doesn't work, I can reach out to them again and tell them my code is not working. So what this also has is, if you can tell, you'll hear a lot in the canning world about headspace. Well, this right here, it gives you your headspace. See, there's a step down. I'm trying to put my hand in there so you can see it. I don't have anything that you can really see it well with, but anyway, let's keep my hand in there. Ah! See, here's this, and it tells you where your headspace is. If you can read it, here's the 1/2 inch headspace, here's the 3/4 inch headspace, and then this bottom one would be an inch headspace. This is where I become a rebel canner, is I can to the neck usually in everything. So we're going to put our funnel right down here. I'm going to do 1 jar, show you how I do 1 jar, and then I'm going to fill them all up and we'll get them in the canner. Probably should use wide mouth for this, but it's okay. These will be kind of softened when we use them, and it's okay because I'm using these for casseroles and the like. I think there's a way you could probably put like a pickling crisp in here and keep it at least maybe firm enough for like stir fries and such. I've never tried that because we like our casseroles. Okay, so to that, I'm going to put in at the very top, I'm going to put in a teaspoon of salt, and I'm using Redmond's real salt. And I'm going to grab I use a chopstick to debubble with. So that's what I use. And then we're just going to cover it with water. And then you want to debubble. And if you see you have too many, just take one out. No big deal. Okay, and so then I'll set that aside and we'll come back and let me top it off a little bit more with some more water. Just a little bit, just a splash. All right, so I'm gonna fill up all my jars like that, and I'll bring you right back and we'll put the lids on and get them in the canner. All right, everybody, I just put in the salt on top of the squash, and now I'm gonna fill them up with water. I may have to fill up my water again. I did 5 jars. I had enough squash to do 5 jars. And this is what happened to me. My squash is just now, my garden is just now starting to come in. And so you don't get a whole, like a full canner every time. But I don't want my squash to go to waste. I'll put it in the refrigerator for a day or two, but I don't want to leave it much longer than that. So sometimes you don't have a full jar or a full canner at one time. So what I like to do, I'm going to show you what I like to do. I don't like to leave space in my canner because I don't want the jars banging around. I want the jars to be steady. And mine is a 7-quart canner. So what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly debubble. And I'll just stick it in the best I can. If I can't get it all the way, I don't worry about it too terribly much. I know they say never to use a metal knife. And I don't know why, unless they're worried about chipping the jar. Oh, that's another thing. Always run your finger around the lip of the jar to be sure you don't feel any chips in the glass or anything, because you don't want it's something to impede your seal. And if there's a gap, then it can't, there's nothing there for it to seal to. So, all right. So, but anyway, as I was saying, I have debubbled with a metal knife. So as you can see, I don't follow every rule, but I try to be very safe, if that makes sense at all. All right, let me get my favorite lids in the world. So now what you want to do is just wipe off the lids. There's nothing real sticky in this. The only thing is the salt. You don't want a grain of salt to be on there, so you can just take some water, wipe it off. If I'm using something, if I'm canning something that might be sticky, I'll use some vinegar. All right, so my favorite lids, of course, are the 4-jar lids. And we're going to use these on the 5 jars that I have squash in. All right. And we're going to go ahead and put rings on finger tight, meaning you screw it down and then maybe give it a twist, a small twist, just with the tips of your fingers. Be sure you're getting your rings on straight. Like this one doesn't feel like it's going on straight. So let's try a different ring here. There we go. See, that went on. If it's the only time I've had a 4-jar lid failure is when I didn't have the ring on appropriately and right. I had it was whoppy-cocked. Is that a word? Whoppy-cocked? We use it. All right. So let me tell you what I have, how I'm going to fill up the space. I'm just going to can up some water. I just put some water in 2 jars. And if you have some already pre-used lids that you've popped off of something that you've opened up, this is a great place to reuse that kind of lid, because you don't care if it seals or not. It's just water. You're going to pop it open and dump it out anyway. Or if you buy jars that already have the lids and rings on, and you know for a fact you're not going to can food with those lids, this is a great place to use them. So I'm just going to put these, but like I said, if you've opened a can of, let's say, applesauce, and you've emptied that jar out, then you can reuse that lid here, because you don't care about the safety of these two. It doesn't matter. You're just creating, filling in a void in the canner. All right, so we're gonna get our squash in the canner, and I'll meet you over there. If you have a new canner, there is a fill line in there. I kind of know where mine is. Now, it's not where the water line shows, because that's from where the water boils and rises when you put the jars in. I just kind of eyeball a couple of inches. And I'm going to put just a splash more. Just a little bit more. All right. And so we're going to get our jars in. I also put a splash of white vinegar in there. The white vinegar is because we have some minerals in our water that can build up on the outside of the jars. And I want pretty, clear, beautiful jars. So now we're just going to set our jars down in here. And I'm going to grab a water jar every now and then. See, I want to get my canner turned around right. So I know which way it goes. I'll do that in a minute when I get the lid. Sometimes it takes me a while. The first time of the season, it takes me a while to figure the way the lid goes on. All right. Now you could have chopped up some onion and put in there. That would have been wonderful. All right. You know what? I got to go find, oh, here's my weight. I was thinking, I don't know where my weight is. All right. Your lid comes with a seal, and I just pop it in there. Okay. All right, and I washed everything this morning. So I want to be able to see the gauge. So, and you kind of offset your lid. This is an old school Presto. And sometimes I have to wet the seal, but I think it's going to go on just fine. There we go. All right. So I can see the gauge. This is a steam spout. We're going to let it come to a steam, and we're going to let it steam for good several minutes before we put the weight on. So I'm just going to turn the burner on. The burner's on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it come up to pressure, come up to about 10 pounds, and I'm going to keep it there. Let me check and see if I can remember how many minutes we're going to keep it at 10 pounds. All right, so I looked it up. It says to can it for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. So this is a process. And with pressure canning, that is what makes pressure canning a little more difficult than water bath canning, is because you can't walk away from it. You have to stay here, you have to monitor, you have to turn your heat up or down, and you have to watch it for 90 minutes and time it. So that is the hard part about canning. Plus, I know building up pressure makes people nervous. I get that. But we're going to hopefully do this and do it safely. And we're going to watch the gauge. We don't need to start watching it now, because we need to let it build up some steam. Let the steam vent for quite a bit, 5 to 10 minutes. Then we'll put the weight on and let it build to pressure. And then we'll just watch it for 90 minutes and keep it at the 10-pound mark. All right, I don't know if you guys can see that steam coming out of there. That's what you want to see, and you want to see it for about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. You know, as long as it's a good steady steaming coming out of there, you want to see it. Start your timer and then watch. Just make sure it's coming out, and then in about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, anywhere in between there, we'll put the weight on. You also want to see this little tab popped up. As you saw a while ago, it was down and steam was coming out of that too, but it has since popped up. So now we are going to definitely wait for 5 to 10 minutes for the steam to come out of there, and then we'll place the weight on. Okay everyone, I have placed the weight on, and you can see that the pounds are getting up there close to 10 pounds. They're actually right there. So I'm going to slowly start turning the burner down a bit. I want it to just hang there at 10 pounds for about 90 minutes. Okay everyone, I had misread everything. We do not pressure can it for 90 minutes. We pressure can it for 30 minutes. I was thinking 90 minutes seems awful long. I think it was doing a different, harder type of squash, but a yellow squash can go for 30 minutes. So I have reset my timer for 30 minutes, and we're going to let it hang right there at 10 pounds for 30 minutes, and we'll see you when it comes out. Okay everyone, my timer went off. Do not touch anything. You just cut the burner off, let the pressure come all the way down. Now my needle does not actually go all the way down. It's kind of broken and it stops a little, but I know where it's at. And I let it stay there for quite a while. But you don't touch the weight, don't touch this little thing right here. You just walk away, turn the burner off, walk away, and let the pressure come down all by itself. Okay everyone, here is the most nerve-wracking part to me, is when I get to open it up and look and see if any of the jars broke, busted, if any mistakes happened. Now, I don't have a very strong food smell, so I'm pretty sure it did okay. Now, here is one tip I have. We are going to open the canner lid. We're going to pull it towards us so the steam comes out the back way and doesn't burn you and give you a steam shower. All right, they are still bubbling away. So I'm going to let them just hang out right there before I try to move them. No jars busted. Everything looks wonderful. So, good job. So we are just going to hang tight and we'll move them out of there and onto the, now I'm just tickled pink. Everything looks great. So we'll move them over in just a minute. I want to give them a chance to cool down just a little bit. I let it sit there for a while. Now I'm going to let it sit there for a few minutes without messing them and just let them start to cool off. You might start hearing the seals seal and you'll hear a little ping, and that's the sound you want to hear. That is the glorious sound of the sealing. So, all right. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, everyone, here is our beautiful squash, all ready for squash casserole. This is odd for me to look at because I don't usually cut them up that way. I usually cut them in rings, but so yeah, I'm super happy with that. They've all sealed. You can see I've taken the rings off and they've all sealed beautifully. And yeah, so I am super happy with how these turned out, and I'm sure I'll be canning a lot more. I would love to can squash pickles. Squash pickles are so good. Oh my goodness, they are so good. They're great with pintos. I mean, it's just wonderful, but we'll see. So I'm gonna go get these put on my shelf, and slowly we are stocking up our shelves for fresh eating all winter long. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for joining the Farm and Pastor's Wife. I will see you guys on the next video. I can't wait. We've got some exciting, wonderful things coming up. And I'll see you on the next one. Remember, the grease is hot enough. You can fry anything. Bye, y'all.